So good afternoon, good morning, participants. Thank you so much for your participation in the fourth webinar on ADI. Today, we will discuss the cases in India. So the previous webinar, first webinar, that was the introduction. So we had a presentation by GLEIF, Global ADI Foundation. Stephen explained how GLEIF sort of organized the ADI and also the governing structure, global governing structure, the ADI Regulatory Oversight Committee on the top, and GLEIF as a kind of a coordinator. And there are many ADI issuers. And he showed actual GLEIF website. So you could see how ADI information can be taken from the website. The second webinar, we discussed the US case, and we had a presentation from US Custom. US Custom is currently considering to introduce globally accepted identifier for their operations, and they are considering they are sort of examining the three identifiers, and ADI is one of them. Probably they will select the 2 out of 3 candidates, and hopefully ADI can be chosen. And this is going to be a very important step. So the ADI implementation outside of financial institutions and financial transactions. Also, JP Morgan Chase explained how ADI can potentially create the huge benefit to the banking community and also the customers. And they are willing to act as a validation agent to support their customer to get the ADI. So in that way, the customer can easily get ADI. In the third webinar, we learned the experience in Europe. So the ECB explained their sort of vision and also the plan to introduce ADI in various regulatory reporting, and not just limited to the securities market transactions, but also the other financial transactions. Also, the CETA, the non-profit organization for the airline industry, they explained actual use case, how ADI can be used to prevent the commercial fraud. And ADI can play quite an important role to ensure the sort of identity. And this really helped reducing the fraudulent cases. So those are the examples that we could learn. And today we have 2 distinguished speakers to learn the cases in India. So first, Mr. Basu, he's the Chief General Manager of the Reserve Bank of India. So he will explain from the regulator's perspective. And second, Mr. Pandey, he is the Senior Vice President of the Clearing Corporation of India. He's from the issuer of ADI, and we would like to learn from the sort of a private sector's view, or how the ADI issuer can support the private sector. So this is the today's agenda. So let me move the slide. So as usual, we have two presentations, and then we will have a Q&A session. So hopefully we can learn the cases in India. So let's move to the first session. So Mr. Mazu, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Satoru Yamadera, popularly known as Tomo, for the nice words and for giving us a chance to present the India story in terms of implementing the LEI. And from my side as well, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the colleagues who have joined in on this webinar. We are extremely grateful to the ADB for giving us a chance to present what we have done in the LEI realm and how LEI benefits the regulatory space. So we will try to share some of our experiences. Of course, after I complete my time, my colleague, Mr. Pandey from the LEI issuer side will also share about the practical aspects and the various initiatives that have been taken to make LEI acceptance popular as well as to make the contents qualitative. So let me try to tell about the India story. Mr. Tomo, the next slide, please. Everyone remembers the global financial crisis of 2008, and many of the negative outcomes of the GFC have been discussed in many fora and over the last decade as well. But one of the positives that has come out of the GFC is about the need for having a identifier which will be global, which will span across the different financial sector players, segments, and definitely across the different jurisdictions, so that there will be a harmony, there will be a manner in which everybody can sit together and analyze the exposure of various players in the international financial system. So Mr. Tomo was mentioning about the earlier webinars, and Mr. Stefan Wolf of the GLEIF has already explained to you about the concept of LEI. I don't want to get into the actual construct of the LEI or even about the governance structure, but I just want to make a point here is that the Regulatory Oversight Committee, or what we call as the ROC, actively involves in the discussions and in terms of the framework that needs to be put in place for the reach and acceptance of the LEI. And India at present is one of the vice chairs of the ROC, representing the Asian region. We have 5 countries in our region, and India is presently represented as the vice chair, which typically happens by rotation. The next slide, please. See, actually, if you would have seen generally in the developments in every jurisdiction, the efficient financial markets are required for economic development, and correct or adequate information on market participants to all stakeholders actually contributes directly to the efficiency of the financial markets. As I said about the GFC, the global financial crisis, it has helped some good things to the world order in the form of many reforms, but one of the significant is the LEI initiative, and which aims at improving the quality of information on market participants that is available to all the stakeholders. And the aggregate financial sector exposure to a single issuer is an important parameter from the financial stability perspective, so that the financial system vulnerabilities can be better measured and idiosyncratic or sectoral shocks, etc., can be better managed. More so, this will be useful when we have complex intra-group linkages in the financial sector, and because of which the measurement becomes so difficult. The Reserve Bank of India is a full-fledged central bank in the Indian context. Unlike other regulators, where probably the regulation and supervision function might be spread across multiple entities, in India, the Reserve Bank of India has the regulatory remit over the money markets, over the forex markets, and the credit markets as well. In India, the Reserve Bank also is the regulator and the supervisor of the banking and the non-banking financial companies who actually operate in the credit markets. Moreover, Reserve Bank also dons the hat of overseeing the payment systems in the country. So we have multiple roles to play, and for us, it becomes very critical to have overview of the exposure and behavior of various players in the financial sector. And the LEI systems, actually the LEI has the immense potential for unique identification of any entity and its related group, network and aggregation of financial data, be it for credit derivatives, use of data relating to that entity as also for the group. See, actually what happens when we try to oversee the financial sector and the various participants, we also realize that there are many identifiers that are used in different databases, and one common representative identifier becomes very critical and paramount importance. And according to us, LEI fits this bill perfectly, because one is the buildup of risk and how to actually look at the behavior of various players and how to take timely action by getting access to data, by analyzing the data properly, so that we can promote financial stability, because financial stability is the core or the cornerstone of all the activities that the central bank performs. And the benefits are also available to the lending institutions, be it banks or be it the non-banks, as also the rating agencies, because they can better evaluate the risk profile of entities and their groups as well. And use of this LEI for dissemination of, say, derivative or non-derivative transaction will be extremely useful to the markets. And also I feel that the governments can also use LEI to identify instances of economic offenses by tracing out movement of funds across entities. LEI has been playing, you would have heard from the US colleagues as also from the other markets, that LEI can perform a significant role in trade finance, in payment systems, apart from the derivative and credit markets that I was referring to. And if you actually can embed the LEI as part of a digital certificate, it will also be part of the identity of the entity itself. So transactions that are signed in by using such a certificate can be unambiguously tracked back to the originator. If the use of LEI can spread further to the government systems like taxation, registration, or even to the credit rating, etc., in addition to the financial markets, the economic and financial footprints of entities can also be tracked with ease and certainly to better manage the risks. In India, we have taken a phased approach and a gradual manner of implementing the LEI across the various segments. As I was saying, that India dons many hats, and we have followed the approach of what you call practicability in ensuring the adoption of LEI as well. Like, we have ensured that there is a framework for issuance of LEI and for taking care of the requirements of the various players in the financial sector before we have advocated the need for implementing the LEI in the various markets. And we started this process, as you can see from this slide, in June 2017 with the over-the-counter derivatives market, typically for the rupee, what we call as INR, Indian rupee interest rate derivatives, the foreign currency derivatives, and the credit derivatives in India. Again, as I was saying, we have done it in a phased manner. We have also said that the entities which do not have an LEI, they do not take an LEI code, shall not be eligible to participate in the OTC derivative markets. And when we mandate the use and acceptance and the obtention of LEI by entities, we also have told very clearly that all the LEIs should be current and valid. That means they should be renewed year on year and they should not be allowed to be lapsed. Means that if an LEI is lapsed, it will not be accepted as a valid entity and it will not be deemed valid for reporting to the trade repository systems. And we have also expanded the use of LEI for the non-derivative markets, typically for all participants that are other than individuals. So be it, as I said, in the markets that are regulated by RBI, like the GSEC government securities market, the money market. Money market in India, we always look at those instruments which have a maturity of less than 1 year and below, and the non-derivative forex markets as well. That is the transactions that settle on or before the spot date have also been these players in these segments have also been mandated to obtain the LEI in a phased manner. What we have said is that the for the non-derivative forex transactions, while all interbank transactions will be subject to LEI requirements, the client transactions shall require LEI if the amount involved exceeds $1 million or equivalent thereof in any other currency. That means we have put a minimum exposure limit of $1 million for the transactions involving the clients where the LEI requirement is necessitated. And for non-resident entities undertaking the financial transactions in the relevant markets that I was explaining, they will also need to require to take the LEI code. And if the entities are not legal entities in their country of incorporation, because if there may be funds that are operated by a non-resident parent or a management company that are registered as an FPI, foreign portfolio investor, they should use the LEI code of the parent or management company. And the lapsed LEIs, as I said, will be deemed invalid for transactions in markets regulated by RBI, and as also for reporting to the trade repository, be it for the OTC derivative markets or for transactions in non-derivative markets regulated by RBI. So first we started with the OTC derivative markets, and then later in after giving some time for the industry to settle down, we also advertised or advocated the need for LEI in the non-derivative markets. In between, we also said that the credit markets where the banks and the non-banking financial companies participate, we have said that the use of LEI and the need to report LEI by the lending institutions is a must. And here again, we have adopted a phased approach. We have said that for a start, the entities who have exposure of more than 500 million rupees, typically you can say around, if you convert it into US dollars, you can divide by around 73, which is the current rate. So around $67 million. So if you have something like that, so such exposures will definitely need to have an LEI, and the borrowers who do not take the LEI as per this phased manner of implementation, they are not supposed to be allowed renewal of or enhancement of credit limits. So banks should and non-banks will not allow extending credit or even renewing the facilities if the borrowers do not have the LEIs taken from the LOUs. And we have also said that the banks should encourage the large borrowers to obtain LEI, not just for themselves, but for their parent and for their subsidiaries and associates as well. And of course, as I said about lapsed LEIs, these banks need to also ensure that the LEIs are renewed as per the GLEIF guidelines. Yet another point we have also said is that is about the reporting of this information to the Reserve Bank of India, especially about the credit borrowers. So we have a repository of large credits, what we call as CRILC. This is a central repository of information on large credits, which is fed in by scheduled commercial banks in India, the All India financial institutions, and non-banking financial companies above a particular cutoff, so that these reporting systems are available for the regulator for effective monitoring of the entities, as also for supervision of these entities, as also for early recognition of financial distress. And a field has been introduced in this CRILC or CRIL database for LEI to be reported or collected from the institutions relating to the borrowers. And what we do is that we receive the data on the LEIs periodically. And the idea is when we have the complete repository of information, we can use this to monitor group exposures of each bank or of each entity in a more reliable manner. I will just tell you a little later as to what are the uses for which we are putting this LEI data. So according to us, not just the monitoring of the financial profile of the entity, but also of the aggregate borrowing by the corporate groups are all very, very important. And this is being fulfilled by the availability of LEI. So one of the difficulties that typically is seen is about how to monitor the exposure of the group. We may have systems and processes to monitor the exposure of an entity, but there are so many players in the group who may not have, or some of them may not have, or may have exposure to a particular lending institution as well. So to get a 360-degree view of a group becomes so much so critical, and LEI helps us fulfill this requirement, because the exposure of the parent and other companies, associates, etc., will also be known through the common LEI number, because LEI talks about who owns what and who owns whom. So all this information is available. So what we are trying to do is that slowly the process is being discussed. For example, as I said, the Reserve Bank takes care of the financial sector in the credit, money, and forex markets. So we have also a Financial Stability and Development Council that is chaired by the Finance Minister, and there are subcommittees. There is a subcommittee where the Reserve Bank of India governor chairs, and this subcommittee also has representation from the other regulators in the financial sector in India, be it the insurance regulator, be it the pension fund regulator, be it the securities market regulator. So all these people sit together, and it was decided that the advantages of LEI is quite significant, and we should try to make it applicable for all the players in the financial sector. So as part of the discussions in this FSDC, a Financial Sector Stability and Development Council, the other regulators have also agreed to make the recourse to LEI mandatory. For example, the Insurance Regulatory Authority of India, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India is what we call them as IRDAI. They have also mandated that insurers should obtain LEI since June 2020, and they have also been directed, that is the insurers have also been directed to advise their corporate borrowers with exposure of, I said, 500 million rupees, 67, you can take it as nearing around $70 million and above, to obtain the LEI. And the borrowers who do not obtain LEI will not be granted renewal or enhancement of credit facilities by the insurers. As also the point that no new loan proposals shall be sanctioned by the insurers without the LEI being implemented. So we have taken care of the derivative markets, the credit market, and across other players in the financial sector. So what we thought is that the time is also now opportune for the payment system segment also to be brought into the LEI framework. So in January 2021, the Reserve Bank of India announced that the payment systems that are large value in nature, what we call as the large value payment systems, we have the real-time gross settlement system, and we have one more payment system called as the National Electronic Funds Transfer, the RTGS and the NEFT. And in those systems also, we have mandated that the transactions for value above 50 crore or 500 million rupees, what we call as 50 crore rupees as well, shall be containing the LEI number of not just the originator, but also the benefit of the beneficiary as well. And here, of course, since LEI is for adoption by entities, we have said that the non-individual messages shall contain the LEI number. And as of now, it is not made mandatory in the sense that no LEI and we will return the message. So that part of it has not been mandated. We are implemented this requirement. The effective date of implementation was 1st of April 2021. So once the system stabilizes, and because of the COVID, there have been certain issues in the LEI numbers being taken. So once that is all settling in, we will see how the need to mandate the inclusion of LEI in payment messages can be ensured. We do hear during the LEI ROC discussion, etc., the Regulatory Oversight Committee discussions, etc., that India has been one of the few jurisdictions in the globe, probably the first as well, to mandate the use of LEI for payment transactions, payment systems. One more aspect that is being discussed is about the need for LEI in cross-border payments as well, because cross-border payments are the priority area as per the present G20 mandate. The FSB, the Financial Stability Board, and the CPMI, Committee for Payments and Market Infrastructures, are actively engaged in discussions on removing the various building blocks and addressing the hurdles for cross-border remittances and payments to happen smoothly. And one of the building blocks also looks at harmonizing the various messaging standards and other formats that are there for smooth cross-border flow of transactions. And LEI has been looked at as one of those identifiers that could be used to facilitate this harmonization. Incidentally, in 2019, Reserve Bank of India, as part of its vision document for payment systems, Reserve Bank comes out with a vision document every 3 years. And in the vision document for the current period, 2019 to 2022, it has been mentioned that Reserve Bank will target the introduction of LEI for cross-border payments as well. And it has been very clearly enshrined in that vision document that is available on the RBI website. India is also actively involved in various discussions in the CPMI and in the various meetings of the FSB, and we are sure that with the close coordination with the GLEIF, involvement in the LEI Regulatory Oversight Committee, the active participation of various national authorities, it will be possible for us to enhance the scope and reach of LEI, not just in India, but across the globe. Next slide, please, Mr. Tomo. Yeah, this is what I was mentioning about the RBI payment system vision, as also the focus area D in the building block 16 about harmonizing the various factors that are there for use of LEI across the globe. So discussions are on, and we do hope that the outcome will be useful for everyone who is engaged in implementing the regulatory framework in all jurisdictions. Next slide, please. I was referring to the various aspects that have been considered by the Reserve Bank of India for implementing LEI in India. We also extensively rely on the LEI data for the various activities. For example, we have multiple supervisory and regulatory departments looking after different segments of the market, be it for financial market regulation, financial market supervision, the banking regulation, the banking supervision department, the non-banking regulation, the non-banking supervision department, the payments systems department, the foreign exchange department. All these departments look at the availability of this data and try to take decisions based on the exposure of various participants, as also the behavior of these players in such markets, be it their share, be it the increase in certain exposures. All those things are being monitored. Especially these are the specific areas where we are using the LEI data. When we are looking at the product-wise analysis for exposure of various entities, the top 5, the top 10 in a particular segment or across all segments, the industry-wise analysis to see whether there has been a change in the exposure of an industry to a derivative segment. How exactly is this behavior being seen in other segments where this entity is present? Whether we have enough market participants in a particular segments, whether the exposure of the top 5 or top 10 is also leading to concentration. What are all the behavior trends we can see from the past, and how we can actually look at proactively exploiting or using the data for meaningful analysis and for the internal decision-making purposes as well. And I did mention about the credit repository that we have, and LEI has played a significant role in that. We are also now trying to develop an internal information management system using the big data framework for analytics across the different domains. And LEI is a significant part of this system as well. And this we feel will help us in monitoring the exposures at not just the individual level, but in the group levels as well. The LEI implementation in India is through the legal entity identifier India Limited, what we call as the LEIL. You will be hearing about them in the next discussion. And we are in close discussion with them to see whether the gaps or other requirements of the industry are all well addressed. And if there are any other initiatives that need to be taken to plug any perceived gaps or loopholes or even improvements that can be brought in. So we discuss with the LEIL on a regulatory basis. And I do understand from the discussions in various groups, as also from the LEIL, our LOU or the local operating unit, that we have around 54,000 entities with the LEI number. And the renewal rate in India is extremely good vis-a-vis the other local operating units. The LEIL's renewal rate, I understand, is around 88%, which is significantly good, and our data quality has also been extremely well taken care of, also appreciated by GLEIF and other jurisdictions, because we have a fully corroborated data for level 1 and level 2, that is the ultimate parent, is almost 99%. I understand that the global average is around 40%. And the reporting of LEI data for the OTC derivative transactions that gets included in the trade repository reporting is also at 99%. So the compliance level, both in terms of taking the LEIs, compliance level in terms of the quality of data, compliance level in terms of reporting of this LEI data to the centralized repository is also extremely good. I feel that, next slide, please. I feel that this is the statistics which the LEI in India has been following. The statistics which I gave was for the recent month. The graph is a little dated, but it also contains probably about the LEIs issued by the Indian entity. The 54,000 which I was mentioning refers to the LEIs that have been issued by other LOUs as well. And the corroborated level 1 and level 2 data you can see is significantly high, and it gives us a good sense of satisfaction. Next slide, please. According to us, actually, the use of LEI by regulators across all sectors and in all jurisdictions will bring in more benefits to the financial sector in the form of collation of exposures. And the larger the network of the entities in a particular group, the bigger will be the gains by use of LEI. And I do feel that the challenges that are there, as have been listed in this particular slide, can be addressed with active participation and involvement of all the stakeholders, not just domestically, but across all jurisdictions when we get into the cross-border payments or other activities that transcend different jurisdictions. There are certain thoughts being expressed by stakeholders that still there are multiple identifiers, so we should move towards harmonizing these identifiers. Effort should be taken to have minimal obstacles and try to ensure that the cost, sometimes that also comes up in some discussions, the cost of taking an LEI should also be reduced so that the entities have got more energy to come for acceptance. Of course, one point that remains and comes out in all discussions in international fora, even in the Regulatory Oversight Committee, is about the quality of data. So here it is very important that at the time of issuance of LEI, the data corroboration has to be at a very high level, and the renewal, etc., initiatives need also to be pursued actively by not just the regulators, but by the stakeholders and even by the LOUs as well. Some people are also telling us that the banks and other non-banks, some of them are saying that we are also using the LEIs for internal purposes when we monitor the exposure of a particular borrower to our bank, when we monitor the particular group's exposure. So we are also benefiting from the availability of LEI. It will take a little more time probably for a good network to be available in terms of a group tree for monitoring exposures, etc. But I feel that this is a good progress that we have made, and we should not lose out the advantages that we have derived already. Going forward, we will have many more meaningful discussions like this. We have the international fora and players and institutions like ADB that also facilitate in such webinars, and which will probably, I'm very optimistic about this, which will help in realizing the benefits of LEI much more. Next slide, please. I'm conscious of the time, and I know that you are all very well informed participants, and we will be glad to take any questions that you have. We have a separate Q&A session as well, and after the presentation from our LOU, Mr. Pandey, we will probably have much more issues to discuss. So we as I said, the other regulators in the Indian financial sector space are also exploring and looking at more and more use of LEI, including for what we are coming out now with a public credit registry. Just like the credit information registry we have for borrowers, there's also a public credit registry being thought of. So all those registries will have a very significant column for LEI to be used and reported. The FSDC also has interregulatory technical group that helps in coordination across all the regulators, and also to develop interoperable systems, be it for fintech, be it for consultative processes. And LEI is an active area or aspect for discussion in all these meetings. Next slide, please. So let me complete my talk here, and let me hand over the floor to Mr. Pandey. I am very grateful to ADB and to you all for listening to me, and we can always take the discussions forward offline as well. My email ID, my contact details will be there. You can please reach out to me, and we can have discussions to see how the benefits of LEI can be enjoyed by one and all. Thank you very much. Please stay safe and stay healthy. Over to you, Mr. Pandey.
Okay, Mr. Pandey, shall I move the slide for you? Mr. Pandey?
Yeah, shall I upload, share my screen, or?
Well, I can show you a slide if you want. Do you want to have a control? In that case, I will stop sharing, whichever you like it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Vasudevan sir. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to present the Indian story or Indian industry perspective on LEI to this Congress forum. So, when I start, I will briefly touch upon what LEI is, what is our lineage, what is the legal structure, what we are doing in India to promote LEIs and help Indian industry achieving the regulatory mandates. And then in subsequent slides, I'll also mention how LEI can be used in future by the industry so that they can derive the benefits out of it, and the voluntary adoption of LEI becomes much more prevalent. Right now, we see that industry feels that it's a regulatory push, but once they start realizing the benefits, once the industry gets on it, that will be a significant step when we say that the industry is also benefiting out of the real use of LEI. So next slide, please. So LEI is a local operating unit. We are operating in India, and we are only concentrating on Indian entities because we felt that India is a vast country and the requirements are also vast. So we should first concentrate on India. Later on, we can expand to other geographies also. So LEI is a wholly owned subsidiary of CCIL, Clearing Corporation of India Limited. It's a qualified central party for UCCP. It offers clearing and settlement for government securities, money market, and forex and derivative instruments. So that we have a very close connection with our regulator RBI as well as the banks and financial institutions. So we have been, LEI has been recognized by Reserve Bank of India as an issuer of LEI under the Payment and Settlement System Acts of India. So that has really boosted the legal position of LEI. It is also one of the first LOUs to get the accreditation from GLEIF. So GLEIF started its accreditation in 2016, and we were among the first one to get the accreditation. We have all our systems and processes here, which are very well laid down, and UCCP being our parent. So all those the natural processes flow to us, and we also take care of the requirements which is expected from an LOU. We have issued more than 36,000 LEIs today. So one thing which Vasudevan sir has mentioned, and probably it is of key relevance to us also, it is in our ethics also, maybe we can say that, because to LEI, for us, LEI is not just a number which we issue for running something. We feel that it is a number, it is an identity which can really promote the global systemic importance, and people should recognize that this has the potential to really achieve that stability. So we do focus on the data quality, and all our people are trained so that we don't miss out on those things. That is why the data quality of LEI has been quite appreciable. Next slide, please. In India, as Sir has already mentioned, RBI has mandated LAI for 4 broad categories: OTC derivative, credit, non-derivative products, and payment transactions. Insurance regulator IRD has also mandated for insurance and the corporate borrowers. So, as we have seen, I mean, it's a global phenomenon. If you create a new infrastructure, so naturally people don't realize that, okay, what would be the benefit going forward. So there is a resistance. People say that why we should obtain ADI or why we should really invest in these things. So to ultimately realize this benefit, that infrastructure has to be laid down. So that has been the case for LAI also. Because globally we have seen that growth of LAI has been till now primarily driven by the regulatory mandates. So to achieve a critical mass so that industry realizes, the banking sector, the other industry realizes, and start innovating and making new products, which will really ultimately help the Indian industry or any corporate for that matter. I mean, that is something which we have to achieve. So slowly, due to increasing the scope of mandates that have been, we are trying to achieve that one. And hopefully, once that critical mass is there, because we also talk to the banks and other financial institutions, fintech companies, everyone says that yes, it's a really a fantastic concept that you can identify an entity globally, uniquely. I mean, that is something which was never there. Along with that, it also has the information about its direct and ultimate parent based on accounting consolidation. Again, it's a very unique thing which none of the other identifiers have. So that makes LAI a very strong case for use in so many applications. So, as the governance arrangement which ROC provides in GLEIF, maintains and monitors is also something which is worth emulating in so many other places. So we believe that industry is working on utilizing the benefits of LAI in so many digital places, digital transactions, so that very soon we will see that maybe a regulatory mandate will be there, but people will on their own voluntarily come forward and say that yes, we want this LAI number to be used everywhere. And Indian industry or any industry for that matter will start reaping the benefit of this global number. So next slide, please. So how LAI is helping promoting LAI in India or helping industry? So we have been very supportive and very eager to promote this LAI number, and so that it's really ultimately the systemic risk calculation and all those things becomes easy. So all the regulatory requirements are displayed at ADI's website. We also provide FAQ, which are in very usage terms and easy to understand. Helpline number is there. Helpline people are there and actually managing those things. Because again, it's something which we take pride, because India is a very vast country and it has several states having different languages, people speaking different vernacular languages also. So many times the terms, if it is written in English or even if it is explained in a lucid manner, still it becomes difficult for them because of the various level of sophistication. So we train our people to provide support so that the obtention and renewal of LAI becomes very easy for them. So we have made our processes very transparent and online. The application, LAI application is completely online. One can fill the application online, providing all the details, upload all the required documents which are required for validation, and then make payment. Once they make payment, we validate from public registries, public sources, and then issue LAI as per the requirement. So the process has been very smooth. Again, sir has rightly pointed out that cost was one of the concern. So it is maybe the feeling that they say that it's an additional cost for them, but we have been also trying from our level to reduce the cost we have significantly reduced the cost over a period of time, and feel that going forward, if the volume grows and the economies of scale increases, we can further reduce the cost. Again, one important thing we want to stress upon is that we believe that maintaining data quality is one of the paramount importance, because if we lose sight of the data quality at this level, probably data on correction will become difficult. We have all experiences in the banking sector. We have seen that if data quality is not maintained, later on building all those applications and digital transactions, everything will become, people will start doubting this number. So we should take care of this data quality, and that has been the mandate to us from our management also, that at any cost we should not lose sight of this important features. Next slide, please. Yeah, here I have already explained, like because of this diversity in India and people having different level of sophistication, we offer them all the support. We handhold them to small entities, especially we believe that small entities need more handholding, they require more understanding of why LEI is issued. Because here our role, we have actually, again, parent being a CCP, we also done our role as a mentor to them, especially to small entities, so that they understand why this LEI is currently required and what will be its use going forward. So it's a challenge for us at this stage, but again, we believe that very shortly there will be several use cases. LEI will be used in so many digital applications that people will start getting the benefit out of it. So we provide them, quick LEI issuance and renewal. We offer them at rupee and local currency, so no need for conversion, and reminders for timely renewal. Renewal also is one of the factors which we keep an eye on, because we believe that if the data is not renewed, the data is not current, and if something has happened in the past 1 year to that entity, suppose some corporate action or something has happened, it has to be truly reflected in the data for the LEI. So again, all this data is available in our website. It's anyone can download the data, and we have provided all those filters, various filters, so that anyone can find the data in the required manner. And we are also building, API connections so that anyone who is interested in seeing this data, because we are giving public data, anyone who wants to really build some applications or trying to validate the LEI data, they can connect to us. So right now, a few of the banks, bigger banks, they have a direct connection with LEIL, and they validate their data. So I'm sure going forward, we are in discussion with them that they can use this LEI data for creating the group structure, so that the exposure monitoring becomes easier in their books. So we hope that going forward that will increase. So again, it's a question of people have, all the banks say that they have different identifiers in their system, already different identifiers. So this LEI also, although they are populating it, but switching it to LEI completely, they also feel that there should be a critical mass. So hopefully, slowly with increasing mandates and people realizing the benefit, this LEI number will grow, and people will ultimately use this LEI to aggregate all the information. Next slide, please. So again, we are an LOU. So my whatever statement here or our presentation here is based on our understanding with the discussions with various industry players who approach us for issuance of LEI, as well as in some of the industry forum when we visit and talk with them and tell them the importance of LEI. So how Indian industry can potentially benefit LEI is that it can really lower the KYC and MMTM processing time. I guess it takes a lot of time in the banks, especially for the smaller entities, because the document requirement is so much and people are not sophisticated enough to present all the documents in time. It takes time. So all these things can be reduced significantly. So even in the payment system, especially in cross-border transactions where the messages are through SWIFT systems, due to void check and opaque filter, name and sometimes address, I mean, it becomes a point where it gets blocked. So if LEI is used across all these payment transactions, I guess that would also lessen the actual payment transaction time. So failure will be reduced significantly. And in fact, SWIFT in their recent, their modifications, ISO 2022 standards, they are going to change the name and address field with this LEI number so that transactions pass through smoothly. So again, it helps in data reconciliation and clearing and aggregation costs. So regulatory reporting costs also can become significantly reduced. So all these things we feel that it will help in reducing the operational cost, both at the banks as well as the industry. And once this is being realized by the banks, the benefit will be passed on to the Indian industry, or so that they can really either the transactions are faster and the operational costs are lower. So all these things can result in significantly reduced time to do the business. So these efficiencies will be reflected, we believe, over a period of time, the reduced cost and the timelines of services of industry. So this is what is the key benefits which we see that that could accrue to the Indian industry going forward. So again, digital transactions, we are seeing, we are again in touch with few of the industry bodies and participants. Many of the fintech companies, we believe that to identify the entities, they are trying to use some identifier. So we are trying to promote this LEI number. So again, because it has the potential to clearly and unambiguously identify the counterparties and their customers. So even because as per ICC reports also, we believe that this LEI can reduce risk in the realm of digital import-export transactions. Because many times when it is done, people really don't know who are the counterparties with whom they are dealing. If LEI number is embedded along, so they can also find out who is the parent, who is the what is the group with which they are transacting. Is it something which is a genuine group or something which they can easily trade? So all these things we believe that will increase transparency and trust in the business systems and will slowly ultimately help the industry to reap the benefit out of the reduced transaction times. Next slide, please. So it has special importance for the financial sector, financial industries. So banks, if they start using this LEI in their KYC application, that will really help them in aggregation and benefits to complete their KYC processes seamlessly. So again, as Vasudevan sir has rightly mentioned, that validation agent concept now GLEIF is promoting. So validation, because during KYC processes, banks also do many of the things which an LOU is also supposed to do. So if banks can become validation agent for their clients, that can really ease out some of the work of LOU, and there can be a better coordination between the bank and an LOU. So we have reached out to Indian industry and the market bodies, and some of the banks have shown interest. We are trying to explore it further so that this there can be a seamless integration between a bank and the LOU. So the initial process can be completed by the bank, and the rest of the processing, like data quality and other GLEIF processes, can be performed by the LOU. So that will really help in achieving a seamless issuance process and the client will also not face any issue in either issuance or renewal. So we are trying to promote this violation agent concept in India. Hopefully, we should see traction in coming months. So again, widespread use of LAI can reduce key pain points in counterparty identification, including client onboarding as well as lifecycle management. So because right now we understand we all are from banks, Janasar has been getting bigger banks here, and he was heading the treasury of that bigger banks. He can vouch. There are so many different identifiers that manual linking of those identifiers and finding out who is the group, whether there's a transaction which has to be really monitored from the systemic risk perspective. That is a challenge right now. So if they start using this LAI number, which has a which has this direct and ultimate parent linked to the LAI number, that can easily create a group structure. We have demonstrated to the industry and to many participants that use of LAI can really promote them, create this infrastructure and help them in achieving this objective of monitoring the group exposure also. So that we believe that banks should slowly realize and start using this LAI in their processes. Again, so see that the widespread use of LAI can ultimately streamline the processes, reduce the operating time, processing time. That will help in banks in retaining their clients because that will help them in servicing their clients better. Right, in the recent past, McKinsey has done a research on, and that is published in the GLEIF website. And they have advocated and they have proved that if LAI is used across the banking sector, it can really increase the productivity, and 5 to 10% increase in productivity can happen just by reducing this LAI number. So again, once it's a number which has to be seen, and once it is implemented across the banking sector, then only they can probably share their experiences. But this report is based on the I think they have discussed with so many financial institutions across the globe. They have also illustrated a new use case where they are saying that if in commercial credit life cycle, entire commercial credit life cycle, if LAI can be used, it has the potential to reduce the time for completion of the trade cycle significantly, as well as monitor the risk involved in all these life cycle events. So in the next slide, if you can move, this is the brief which they have presented. So they said that in origination, in underwriting, administration, and portfolio management, in all stages of credit cycle, if LAI is used, that can really help in identification of potential customers through group structures and the rating of those clients. All those processes can be achieved and performed in a better manner. So risk analysis, the data approvals, everything becomes easier. Obviously, with the AML, KYC AML being the topmost priority for many other banks. So even after the loan is issued, the review of the account, the monitoring, everything becomes more coherent and easy for them to coordinate. So again, this is something discuss with the banks and let them know that this is if they can use. Although banks are appreciating, slowly they have started appreciating. LAI is one number which they should be using it and replace many other identifiers in their system which are currently there. This also has, we believe, that has a significant role in growth of LAI, and ultimately, so if the critical mass is achieved and people are using this LAI number, so that will ultimately benefit the Indian industry. So next slide, please. So here again, we feel that although the bigger corporates and all those people, they have their required sophistication and they have their adequate skill set to monitor the risk associated with doing business with their counterparties. But if SMEs also start using this LEI number and use this in their counterparty identification, so that can help in their identification of their counterparty in a better, and they can monitor their risk properly. So again, based on WTO report also, now it is it's statistics which has been published that e-commerce platforms has really helped achieve probably the wider growth of cross-border transactions and better integration of the various markets across the globe. So SMEs also, if they start using this UAE number to identify their trading partners, because many times it's not so easy to identify their trading partners sitting across the different end of the globe. So if they start using this LEI number, so I think this could be a very useful alternative to what presently they are using. So this also has the potential to benefit our SMEs who are very small. And, again, SMEs have their primary requirement of getting the finance from the banks to help them run their trade cycle or their daily operating cycle. So here we feel that the KYC level processes and trade and writing processes, the banks, they involve a lot of documentation, and because they have to satisfy themselves, yes, that they are being paid to the right kind of people. And SMEs, especially, they sometimes they lack the sophistication and they don't have the adequate documents to support all their claims. So if LEI is used, and banks also start using LEI, that can really help completing this process in a timely manner, and ultimately the flow of credit also can happen to those SMEs in a faster manner. So again, it will help in fraud detection. So because the SMEs will be knowing that who is the counterparty with whom they are dealing, so probably that can give them a better view, better insight on with whom they are dealing, so they can take the adequate precaution and they are doing a transaction with them, rather than doing the transaction and later on finding some ways how to recover the money. So all these things again, as a LOU, we will try to promote these things to SMEs and tell them the benefits. Again, we believe that there are a lot of new fintech companies which are coming. Yesterday also, we had a discussion with one of the working groups. They are thinking in India that within the transactions, the digital transactions, the agreements, all those things should be automated and digitalized, so that the process of trade delivery to these, especially to these smaller SMEs, become faster. So there, the use of LEI, we have system, we have demonstrated the use case of LEI in those applications. If they embed in from the start, that will really help. Here, one thing I want to mention is that in India, the consortium of banks, they have started Indian Banks Blockchain Infrastructure Company. So they are trying to create an infrastructure whereby the flow of credit to the industry can happen through blockchain infrastructure. So there we are also trying to promote this LEI number, so that if it is embedded, that can really quicken the trade cycle. That will really help those industries. Next slide, please. So again, as we have mentioned, and it has been raised all about that trust in digital world is something which is which has to be ensured, because people, we are not dealing face to face. So if there is some some information or some way to ensure trust, that is something which could go a long way in promoting the digital transactions. So the whole scheme of things where ROC is having the oversight over this whole process, and GLEIF runs all those validations. The LOUs need to follow all those things. I guess LEI has the potential to create that trust in this digital world. So use of LEI in trade finance can really is one thing which we are pretty sure that it can really help. From our experiences also, we can tell that trade finance typically takes a lot of time, usually 7 to 10 days to fructify simple trade finance transactions, especially cross-border transactions, where there are so many entities involved. So LEI is used across the processes. That can really be feel that it can help in faster processing of those transactions. So, e-invoicing it can be used. So again, it can really help in identification of that entity very clearly. So digital certificate, have already mentioned, digital certificates right now, people use different identifiers to obtain digital certificate. So if LEI is used, ultimately it can easily be tracked back to who is the actual entity behind that digital certificate. So towards that, the last point which I mentioned, VLEI, verifiable LEI, a new concept which GLEIF is they are promoting, and it is under product development stage and proof of concept stage. They are also mentioning that along with the legal entity, if we can find a way to give the credentials, digitally verifiable credentials to the officials of those entities also who are usually representing those companies, that would go a long way in promoting these digital transactions. So LEI has consented, and we are participating in that pilot project. So once it is there, I guess that could really that could create a second wave of use case of LEI, where Indian industry or any industry, they will really see it as a having great potential. So in our discussions with the industry, we have presented these things, and we hope that this can create a new infrastructure whereby LEI can be used potentially along with this VLEI for many of those digital transactions and agreements. So if that can be achieved, I guess the next step of improvement in LEI number can be achieved. So that will really help, and we are. It's again, GLEIF has presented, and it's there for everyone to see that many industries, many hospital industries, there are so many industries use cases where they are seeing that this VLEI along with LEI can really promote trust in the digital world and can help in achieving smoother transactions. So again, in regulatory filings also, along with that XBRL document, if LEI is embedded, that can easily identify who is the legal entity. And along with that, now this VLEI also coming, that can also identify who has really signed those documents, and whether they are the genuine persons or not. So this we have to understand that the more and more digital world we are moving, so it also has some certain risk which has to be identified in the beginning, and we should try to really find ways to plug those loopholes, because in digital world there can be situation where because of all those information security issues, there can be some challenges. So once this LEI number along with this VLEI is really embedded in those systems, we trust that this can create a new wave of digital transactions. Next slide, please. So again, this new unique infrastructure is being created by the Bank of India, this public trade registry. So public trade registry, they have this says that LEI could be used for identification of those entities. So here, one thing which we feel that for any credit to happen, the credit quality assessment of credit quality is very important, because credit history, what has the transaction like, whether the entity is performing as per the expectation, or if they are having the good credit record, all these things can be tracked if it is maintained in one or two places. And if it is there, I mean, that can really help people in innovating ways and means to find out the credit rating of those entities with whom they are dealing. And that will ultimately help in reducing the cost of credit to those borrowers, especially to smaller and medium sector who don't have probably, I mean, enough transactions or enough credit history to prove that, yeah, they are really first-class people. But because they are small, I mean, the cost of credit to those institutions may not be great. So if this PCR is really, I mean, we see it as a great tool where if this can be, this LEI number can be leveraged and used, that can really help in providing excellent master data whereby those new companies, credit rating agencies, banks, they can utilize it for doing their credit assessment. That will be believed that will promote streamlining of credit flows to the right people at right price. Next slide, please. Yeah. So, I mean, these are our thought processes and these are our efforts towards making this LEI more popular and helping Indian industry realize this use of LEI in their actual day-to-day transactions and their processing, so that the Indian industry grows, they achieve what they can achieve. We really thank ADB and Vasudeva sir for giving us an opportunity to speak on this forum, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so we can have a Q&A session, but just one clarification, because of audio, I couldn't catch clearly. So what is the fee for issuing LEI? Yeah, so in India, so it's roughly, if I talk in dollar terms, it's $65 for issuance and $40 for renewal. Yeah, so for SMEs, are they happy to pay about $60, or you are facing some challenges, or what's the current situation? So currently, I mean, actually, our endeavor is to reduce the fees further, but again, there are some costs involved in IT development and maintenance of the systems and processes. So yeah, you are right. I mean, Indian industry, especially the smaller ones, they feel that the cost should be reduced. So we are also working towards that, and hopefully, going forward, there should be some reduction. But again, we have to, as I mentioned, because we have to really maintain the systems and processes and the people to maintain the data quality. Sometimes that becomes a challenge for us, but we are always, I mean, we have progressively reduced our cost, and we always look forward to the opportunities whereby we can reduce our cost. Okay, thank you. And there was one question to Mr. Basu, and the question was who really led this introduction of LEI in India, and the answer was the RBI. But Mr. Basu, I was just curious that, even probably you faced some challenges. So how did you overcome these opposition? And what was the key sort of determinant who really push, or in the way how you succeed pushing LEI in India?
Yeah, actually, thank you, Mr. Tomo. I did respond to that question. We do have interactions with the government, and as I was mentioning, this Financial Stability and Development Council, where the government and all regulators are there. Say there were these issues being discussed about the usefulness of LEI, so everybody was on board. But as you would also agree, any new initiative will take a little while for the market to accept and for the process to settle down. So even here in the initial phases, we did have the approach of gradually introducing this for, say, higher value borrowers or higher value transactions, and slowly for the other transactions once the market stabilized and settled in. One thing we normally do is that we make it a little mandatory. We don't leave it to the institutions or to the ecosystem to implement. So we do give them time for to settle down, as I was saying, but we do make it mandatory. For example, if you are introducing this in a particular segment or for a particular activity, we say that everybody who is in that activity should implement. And otherwise, it's very difficult. Like I was mentioning about the lapsed LEIs or the trade repository reporting, which also should contain the LEI data. Unless you make it mandatory, it's very difficult to implement. So that has been one of the approaches. Of course, it takes time for us to convince the various players. We do discuss with the LOU and then try to see how much reduction in cost can be considered, how the process can be made more smooth, etc. We do try to facilitate, but it's an ongoing activity. And we, being signatory to the global discussions, we also are part of the G20, etc. discussions. So the internal commitment is there that we should facilitate this. And that approach has been there in all the market-related developments that Reserve Bank of India has been undertaking. LEI is also one of them. You would have seen it has taken 3 to 4 years for it to stabilize now, but we do anticipate that the advantages which Mr. Pandey was mentioning, as I was mentioning, not just to the regulator, but to the entities themselves in terms of internal monitoring, in terms of better compliance, and to prove that, yes, we are also looking at group monitoring, group exposure, etc. And the advantages they desire, they will derive in the Basel III related concepts. So I feel that it's a win-win, and we have to be ready to accept the fact that these things are not just a regulatory push, it has to be a pull and push way of activity as well. So I do feel that the benefits are good. More and more features are also being brought into the LEI. So over a period of time, I'm sure the globe will see more adoption of LEIs, and the benefits are seen by everyone. So it's a continuous challenge, and we have to live with that. That's the role of a regulator.
Thank you, Mr. Vasu. Unfortunately, we need to finish. So if you have any questions, please send us. So we will write to you. So I'd like to conclude today's webinar. So the next, the webinar 5, that is the case in China. So we will learn the experience of Chinese authorities, also some private sector use case. So today, thank you, Mr. Vasu and Mr. Pandey, for your kind presentation and comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And it was a nice interaction that we had. And all the best for all your future initiatives, and to all the participants as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.